very key and important. Now, according to a report here, it reveals that the second Russia-Africa summit will be taking place today. That is, and this comes at a time of a major geopolitical shift. That is with the African leaders, which they may see as offering beneficial opportunities. Now, the previous summit in 2019 led to the signing of about 92 agreements and contracts and memorandums of understanding, especially in areas of course, of energy generation and education. Now, these memorandums of understanding were worth 11 billion US dollars. That is, several African countries such as Nigeria benefited from these agreements. Nigeria is actually one of the countries that benefited from these agreements. Now, this time, many countries on the continent are facing a cost of living crisis, but how likely are they to get help that is from Russia? Now, its invasion of Ukraine has led to sharp increases in fertilizer and grain prices, pushing up the food prices and raising food insecurity that is on the continent of Africa. Now, the second complication in the engagement is the controversial role of the Wagner Group, the Wagner mercenaries. You remember when there was that rumor about the Wagner mercenaries trying to take over the continent? Yes. Russia, but it was just media propaganda as we took a look at that and all that. So the Wagner Group is going to be also discussed. That is in several African countries. Now, the third is that the state of Russia's economy limits President Vladimir Putin as his ability to offer Africa any meaningful economic assistance. Now, and African countries are not likely to reap benefits if they fail to negotiate as a bloc. That point is very important. Key. As a bloc, not as individual nations, but as a bloc. And we're talking about integration, a borderless Africa. So you can see how we can actually have better negotiation terms when we come as a bloc. As you can really take a look in there. Now, the continent has not been able to assert of course, its agency. Now, the 2023 summit is attracting attention because of the posture of several African countries in relation to the war in Ukraine. And now, about half of African countries have either been neutral or supported Russia's action. And Russia's weakened position in world politics offers a rare chance for African countries to express their urgency. Now, despite security and economic challenges, the continent's potential remains unchanged, and this explains the renewed clamor for Africa. Now, still, the renewed interest in establishing or redefining relationships with African countries, as seen in other summits, shows how important Africa is in the world of politics, and now African leaders must take advantage of that too. And of course, there is also some aspect here that what Africa must achieve as a result of this. Now, first, African countries must speak with one voice, and we need to see that African countries must agree on an alternative security arrangement with Russia, which does not include, this is a very important aspect, which does not include private military contractors. They call them private contractors. Now, third, on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has had a disproportionate impact on African countries through food prices. Now, several African countries depend on Russia, and Ukraine for grains and fertilizers. Like I told you, actually, some of these countries use them as raw materials to produce the output. Egypt is a good example. Now, fourth, although it has been reported that the volume of the trade between Russia and Africa has increased in the last few years, it remains, of course, a bit lopsided. Now, many countries have remained importers of Russian products rather than exporters. And now they should negotiate for a program that will allow them to increase their volume of exports to Russia. Something like that, like the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which allowed countries in sub-Saharan Africa to export products to the U.S. tariff-free. So something of that nature is also expected.
Something about this. The president of Kenya actually deliberately refused to go to this summit because he feels like he has talked enough. Really, there is no need of him going.
So he just wants to see action implemented.
definitely.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, there is that time when you feel like you get tired of talking about something, and there ought to be a time when it should be really
Because he has talked about African integration and da 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 da. So it's going to be a repetition for him. This is something he has been calling for.
Actually,
for
I've
that
even
level.
mentioned that before. That in Africa, we've been mentioning about this integration for quite a while. Actually, 2019, it's when this was officially made. But of course, if, a number of African countries had to ratify for the African Free Trade Area, and now it's 2023. By now, it must be effect. But still, talks, and all that. And he's right.
You know,
if I were him, I would do the same.
Yeah, because first of all, as East Africa, we're still struggling. I don't think for us to unite, we have to first unite as our different.
Take a look at the different regional groupings.
Yes,
the East
the
Africa,
regional
the
groupings.
ECOWAS, the SADC. But at least the ECOWAS is fine.
Yes.
That West Africa, they still has some sort of unity in there. But down here, the SADC, I think even the SADC is fine, and COMESA is okay. But also, we have a challenge whereby different countries are into different commitments. For example, Uganda is in COMESA, East African Cooperation. Then there is the IGAD. So you find that some of these regional groupings also have policies guiding how these nations should relate. And sometimes you can find that an IGAD policy might, in some sort of a way, collide with a policy of COMESA or SADC. Now, like Tanzania is in SADC, is in
East Africa,
is an East African operation. So you can really see how big all that aspects, and we failed to harmonize into that. And now, if we can't harmonize that perfectly, how are we going to really have a coordination with the entire people, with our brothers in so many other parts of the country? I mean, of the continent. So those are quite some of the key important aspects to really look into if we talk about integration of Africa. Well, it's 15 minutes past 7, and now let's switch over and take a look at what's happening into the press. Quite a very interesting conversation in here. I got the new vision. Marcy Katsime is going to be taking us through the Daily Monitor.
Now, it is beginning with the Daily Monitor. I see here families feel heat of charcoal prices and, of course, cost of charcoal in many urban centers countrywide more than doubles 2 months after President Museveni issued a ban of trade in the north and eastern Uganda. So people who are relying on charcoal are definitely facing it hot because, I mean, the prices have doubled. So
yeah. Because
if a sack was at 25,000, now it's at 50,000. Just imagine.
That is serious. But actually, there has been movements to push people to use gas, and
other energy saving
sources which don't pollute the environment, and we saw actually some agencies went ahead to partner with banks to give people loans so that they can easily acquire these other energy sources, alternatives,
energy saving stoves
and all that. Actually, I think it was still this very year. People, I think in western, around that area where oil is going to be mined, there were some conferences held teaching people how to use these gases. This gas kind of a sort of a thing, and they partnered with banks. Equity Bank was one of them. Stanbic Bank, I think, was also part of them, to give them loans to be able to acquire these equipment. And I can see how serious they are now.
I don't know. Have you taken time to really go to the market and purchase onions?
Told onions are expensive.
Really, onions are expensive because over the weekend I tried to purchase onions and I was really shocked. An onion being at 500, I was thinking to myself, an onion, small as it is, at 500 shillings. Now imagine you're buying a kilo.
How big was it?
I think this size.
Small,
of course.
Small 500?
Yes. 500. So definitely this is where we are heading. I don't know if we're in scarcity of
I don't know what to say.
Of onions, but then anyway. And of course here we see FDC legislators call for dialogue to end this crisis, and of course Uganda is set to start bone marrow transplants.
Bone marrow transplants.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's been people have been flying out to Kenya, for having those bone marrow transplants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting in here. Now, when we cross over to the new vision, we can take a look at. Well, there is a very interesting headline here, but let me first. I'll bring that last. Let's see. LC chairman arrested over theft of police confidential data. Details you find of that. Why would somebody do such a thing? And then the first daughter here launches NRA documentary. Yeah, you'll check it out too there. And I can see court allows to deal 795 billion claim case.
Wow.
What does it really involve into this case, Mike? When you get yourself this copy, you'll find out that. Then I can see. Okay. The big issue here was about the software to catch the corrupt leaders has been okayed.
Wow.
Now, how is this going to really work? When you get yourself this copy, you'll actually find out further details. As Museveni opts for a system used in the United Kingdom and Canada at the same time.
Wow.
Then there is, of course, President to attend the summit in Russia. Yes. And,
I think he's already there.
Yeah, he's already there, well, of course. And why more Ugandans are opting for civil marriages, not church marriages?
I would love to read that because I mean I think people for civil marriages, I think it gives you the right to end
the contract.
To end the contract and of course have as many spouses as possible.
Not till the put us apart.
Yes, you can sign a
Why
contract after 5 years. We go, everyone goes there.
So is that okay to you?
It is not definitely okay, but then people feel it's much cheaper. I do not know because it doesn't evolve.
No, it's just financial issues. People just don't want to.
Yes, people I think are not.
It's becoming like pleasure.
It's becoming pleasure.
Because, of course, the contract, you're into this thing. I mean, for pleasure, for 5 years, you're done. I mean, you can enter another contract with someone else.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Definitely, that's it for the civil marriages right there. And, of course, a cholera outbreak. Government dispatches response team. And, of course, the Ministry of Health has dispatched its teams of scientists to support leaders in Namiyingo and Kayunga districts in containing out the outbreak of cholera. Okay. So be careful out there. Cholera kills, so definitely be careful on what you take in. Your environment, diarrhea, and, if you're having a running stomach, and sort of go to a medical health center and seek medical attention.
Now here, government to protect, that is the local manufacturers from unfair competition. All right, now, as we cross over to take a look at the traffic condition right there, those are images coming in from Fairway traffic light. The junction in there, of course, as you are closer to the golf course. Yeah, and the hotel and also the golf course itself. So you can really see that situation like, how was the jam like there when you're coming?
It wasn't that much, really, I must say. It was the lights were doing it well. It wasn't that crowded.
Wasn't that crowded?
Yes, maybe for cases of the ones that were coming in from Bombo. Yes, maybe that side.
Bombo.
For Makerere, Makerere not that much. Apollo not that much. And of course it was like a normal day. No much traffic. It was quite. It would handle the traffic. Okay.
I happened to pass via Mango. It seemed a little bit tight. Then I linked up to the clock tower, and it was still okay. Actually, it was fine, wasn't it?
People are losing up. People are losing up. It's Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. Though towards the Wasafi area, there was a little bit of a crowd, some sort of a congestion. But anyway, as we take a look in there, we can see the John Babiha Road. It's free. The vehicles are coming in from there, and of course, definitely heading to the other different destinations, as we can observe there. Perfect. A number of them, but actually I know that route for having quite a number of traffic lights. I mean, as you're coming in from there. So if you're not patient enough, maybe it's not a route for you. But regardless of that, I don't think it's bad enough to make you delayed to reach to your required appointment. Regardless of whether you are using a border or you're using or you're into your car, you know, or you could be even into a public, using public means of transport, it's still fine and okay. So you can really see and observe that vehicles are moving in freely, heading to the different destinations. Now, a majority of them now heading towards Wandaga. Of course, they're going to link up to the Mulago roundabout in there and proceed to the different destinations, as you can actually perfectly observe it right there. Yes, so it's a cool situation. It's a cool situation. Yes, cool situation. Probably we could have some visuals from other areas and see how it is like. But that is how it is like for the John Babiha route. A few border borders, not so really as much. Actually, place. I think the places which normally have lots of border borders is the Ginger Road Junction traffic lights, which has quite a lot of border borders, and the clock tower border borders. A huge number of them accompanied with pedestrians, but this area has quite a few of them. According to we see a few school children heading to, and majority are coming in from the John Babiha route, heading to other areas. So that's the situation like. So if you're coming from areas that actually link up to here, Kamocha, Wandaga, yes, you can see, and you're heading probably towards city center. Or you're coming from the city, you're heading to Mulago, Wandaga, you can really see how the situation is there. And you can check through and see how favorable it is for you and what is the best route you can actually use to be in position to reach your required destination in the required time at that moment. Yes, border borders few, border borders quite few, and not so many, which are actually majority cause some sorts of in some accidents. Can I call them accidents on the road? Yeah. So that is it for our traffic updates this morning. It's exactly 25 minutes past 7. And of course, as we head into the break, I would love to remind you the Magnitude Zabo platform anytime I'm going to be opening up. And for you to be a part of this, it's quite very simple. Just get your mobile phone and dial *292#. And this will bring you with a number of options, while you will be in position to buy government bonds and securities for a fee of just 15,000 Ghana shillings. Now, the markets will be opening at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they'll be running all the way. That is to 3:15 p.m. West African time. This is effective Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays when those markets cannot be accessed. But apart from that, you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make yourself quite some unique profits, something which I believe is very key when it comes to your financial growth and development as an individual in quite lots of aspects of life. Remember, on top of *292#, you have to register with your national identification number for you to proceed efficiently. Now, this week had no public holidays, and well, even tomorrow is still there for you to be a part of these markets. Now, that will simply say, it's my money, my future, and all that East Africa tells you, do something new for yourself. Remember, it is the year 2023. Well, now let's get into the break. And definitely when we return, I shall be taking a look at what's happening onto the East African community in terms of business, but definitely winding it up with the international business updates. Stick around.